now convinced anybody listening to my voice in Detroit or the suburbs, this is the beginning of the end of Dan Campbell. A bad season here, and I expect the Lions to make a change. Because this will be 2 bad years, possibly, right? Not making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. A blown chance against Washington when they were the number 1 team in the NFC. And a blown chance at a Super Bowl. They were 2 quarters, a half away from getting in the Super Bowl. And even Dan Campbell said it then. Remember, he was bummed out. He said, we may never get back to this place again. And now I'm more convinced than ever when you look at the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, year number 2. Micah Parsons eventually going to get back to Green Bay. They got offense. And now the Vikings have upgraded their quarterback spot or situation. So who's the weak link now in the NFC North? Is it the Detroit Lions who keep hemorrhaging players? And their star center had to quit, tried to come back. He failed the physical. Like, you could go on and on and on. They couldn't pay their second running back because they had to dump him, let him go on his merry way. Couldn't pay him. You can't pay everybody. And as I look at this roster, look at this team, hemorrhaging players, it's not the same from 3 years ago. The demise of the Lions has started big time. And I expect Dan Campbell to be the casualty after this season.
Shout out to everybody, man. Like I said, I met Rob Parker. He's real cool, man. The number one thing I just never understood about the city of Detroit is why they allow New Yorkers to come here and work sports radio. That's been my biggest thing. Like, I don't really understand why they allow them to come in and work sports radio. But in general, I mean, he said kind of like the Terrion Arnold thing was Dan Campbell fault. Now he's saying that, Campbell's on the hot seat. I mean, as people said that when in the beginning of the second year when they blew that game versus Vikings, where do you go as Dan Campbell? Where do you go from Dan Campbell, bro? Where do you go? The Lions ain't never been that close since 1991 to the NFC Championship game. Where do you go? They blew their window, and I mean, at the end of the day, San Francisco blew their window a bunch of times, and they still contenders. The Rams reinvented themselves a bunch of times, and they favorites. The Patriots remain contenders for years. Years they remain contenders. So, to what he's saying, man, I like Dan as a coach. And you got to remember, Dan is a first-time head coach. So Dan is still learning and still, getting there. I don't blame Dan for the Washington. I blame Dan for the Washington game, but they wasn't going to win the Super Bowl. They had too many injuries. Him and Ben Johnson came out throwing the ball versus the last rated defense. The last rated run defense. And Jahmyr Gibbs was cooking. Why not just play clock management and run the ball out? That I never understood, so I agree with him on that. But, last year, they can say, well, John Morton was a bad pick. They still was putting up points for John Morton. They had a down year. There's Chicago. I mean, I'm not really worried about Chicago. They got a first-place schedule. They got a target on their back. And they may respond well. Green Bay is Green Bay. Minnesota, not worried about them. I heard J.J. McCarthy winning that battle early on. So we'll see. I mean, it's always tough in the division, but to say fire Dan Campbell and then you advocate for him to get fired, like, why? Like, Rob Parker just hates Detroit teams. I just don't, like, okay, why did you work in the city of Detroit if you hate it here? There's not objectivity here. It's just like, I hate Detroit. And that's, you got to understand, this franchises in Detroit has had a tumultuous beef with the old media. They don't really have that bad relationship with newer media, YouTubers. You don't have that relationship because most of the big pissing YouTubers ain't even from the city. But in general, they don't have those bad relationships with us. You know what I'm saying? They don't really have those bad relationships. A lot of them bad relationships was really, milked and cooked, many years ago. and when they would leak things out to ESPN and not leak them out to local beat writers. So you got to understand, people like Rob Parker, they got personal beef with the Illiches and with the Pistons owner, Tom, whoever it may be. They got, they got personal beef. Personal. So that's one thing that I think people kind of gotta really pay attention to, man. They got personal beefs, but yeah, I mean, what you expect them to do? They know not only do they draft a bunch of injury prone players. Yeah, a lot of these players are injured. That's the NFL. The average, career is 2.5 seasons last time I checked. So the turnover rate is high. I really don't understand what people thinking. They draft well. They just got to do a better job, maintaining their players, maintenance their players, not being so rough in practice. And I think it took them 5 years to start to make those adjustments, and they made them. But a guy that's came in here and instantly turned the franchise around, you talking about, get rid of him. Get rid for what? Who you going to get? The foundation is him. The players love him. And we'll see. But to sit here, oh, man, they need bro, stop hating, dog. Just go work in Detroit. Go work in New York. Go work in New York. And this is why people don't really fuck with the old voices of Detroit, whether they was on the radio, whether they was on a podcast, or they do podcasts. Bro, we ain't trying to hear all that. But I ain't advocating. Then he also said, I seen a clip of him or a post to him saying that, oh, see this Terrion Arnold, this raw Dan Campbell is in trouble. Hey, how we just gonna convict Terrion Arnold? We just gonna convict Terrion? Well, we just guilty. And then if he not guilty, then what? He can't get his reputation back. We just gonna convict Terrion? Okay, Terrion made a mistake. What that got to do with anything? What they got to do with Dan Campbell losing his job? Anybody can be a criminal. Anybody, you have a fucking killer right on your team right now. That seems like anybody can be a criminal. That ain't my fault. That people choose to make decisions. They make decisions. But for him to go out this tirade, to go out, let it go, bro. You in LA, talk about something else. Let it go. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Dan need to be fired. Dan should do that, bro. Even last year was one of the more successful Detroit Lions seasons compared to a bunch of damn near all of the previous ones. Damn near all the previous ones since 1991. That season was successful. So to be sitting here and you think people gonna advocate to fire this man, people love this man in this city. They love this man. Brad Holmes get more scrutiny than he do, and he been a fucking wizard at the personnel. Brad been a wizard at personnel. His only issue is he just like drafting. He like fucking with injury prone players, whether they free agents or they draftees. Once he shake that habit, he might go down as the greatest GM of all time. Excuse me. He might go down as the greatest GM of all time if he shake that habit. But who knows if he will. But yeah, Rob is senile or some shit, man. He really is. Rob need to let that shit go. Get the hate out your heart, man. Let it go, man. But hey, man, that's just my opinion on it, man. Check out Detroit Lions Talk playlist. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Find me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Amazon, Kick, Twitch, the whole nine. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Peace.